everyone. Northeast India is the region situated in the easternmost part of India, comprising of 8 states, which includes Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland, and Sikkim. It is linked with Indian heartland with a 21 wide kilometer Siliguri corridor, which is also commonly known as the Chicken Neck. The northeast borders on 4 countries, namely China and Bhutan on its north, Myanmar on its east, and Bangladesh on its south and west. It has an area of 2.6 lakh square kilometer, which is 7.6% of India's land, while its population is 39 million plus, which is 3.6% of India's population. It has 475 ethnic groups and 400 languages and dialects are spoken here. It is populated with people who have very strong ethnicities. There is a sense of identity in each of these different communities. There have been several groups which have distinct identity in the region, emphasizing their uniqueness. They want to retain their uniqueness in their political and social orientations as well. It is due to this there are so many diverse forces at play in this region which gave rise to insurgency. Northeast India have been facing the problem of insurgency for more than 7 decades now, which we will discuss today with our guest speaker, Mr. B.L. Bohra, who is a retired DGP, Tripura and Manipur. I welcome you, sir, on this platform today. Sir, we would like to know how big and serious is the problem of insurgency in India?
Well, insurgency problem in India is broadly in 3 areas, one can say: J&K, some area in Naxalism in central India, and in the northeast.
Yes, sir.
So situation in Naxal area is comparatively under control. Same with northeast. But in J&K, it is still a little strong.
So, what is the history of insurgency in our northeast India in general, as well as state specific, because it comprises of 8 states and every state has a different issue.
Absolutely. Actually, as you said rightly, every state has a different issue. But firstly, let me make it clear that insurgency is not in all the 8 states of Northeast. Earlier, there were 7 states. They were called Seven Sisters, and later on, Sikkim was added. So, and it is not in all states. It used to be in some states where it has been controlled, like in Mizoram. That used to be there. MNF was there, Mizo National Front. Then there was an agreement with their leader called Lal Dega. So that is over. It's a peaceful state. Tripura had insurgency, where I happened to be the Director General of Police. And luckily that also police was able to control it. So presently, out of the 8 states that are broadly affected. And in terms of seriousness, the first will be Manipur, second will be Nagaland, third will be Arunachal Pradesh, and fourth will be Assam. As of a decade now, situation is much better. And there has been no serious incident in the last about 2.5 years in Assam also. Insurgency, as you know, Preeti, basically means that some people, because of their own strong reasons, want to carve out a separate country from the existing geographical territory of a country.
Yes, sir.
So there have been insurgency movements in these areas. Everyone has its own reasons, but basically they're historical reasons because they think that they were independent countries in their own right earlier on, and they want to continue as independent countries.
So, sir, what are the main, why is our Northeast India so vulnerable to such type of terrorism and insurgency? What are the main factors responsible and how it is different from other parts of India?
One of the reasons is that, of course, many of them were independent kingdoms of their own. And they had a long history. In Assam, you had Om kings. They ruled for 400 years.
Yes.
In Manipur, Tripura kingdom, in Tripura also, they were having Suryavanshi Rajas and Chandravanshi Rajas and all that was there. And British really never actually controlled that land as much as the mainland of India. They had some connections, they had some, they had their regents there, they were collecting some kind of a revenue. So after the British left, these people thought that because of historical reasons, they should go back to be their own independent masters. Also, the new country, the new nation, the first time India as a nation like this, they did not or could not pay enough attention to the problems of these areas. So there was a lot of resentment, and that is why the insurgency started there. But as I said now, over a period of time, a lot of effort has been made by the government of India.
Yes.
And there's a lot of education, people have understood things are much better now. And as I said, just 4 states out of 8 now, half, they are also marginally affected. And in terms of their seriousness, I have already told you the 4 states.
Yes, sir. So, as you've already told that there were historical reasons of why Northeast India is vulnerable to insurgency. So, what do you think is the exact role of terrain in the in insurgency and role of neighboring countries? How easy it is for them to infiltrate into India?
See, these are all geographical reasons. Now, uh, let's talk of the border of Bangladesh today.
Yes, sir.
When Pakistan was called out and partition took place, 2 states in India were divided, Punjab and Bengal. Now, on the northeastern side, when Bengal was divided, it was called East Pakistan at that time. So East Pakistan and now Bangladesh has borders with the states of Tripura,
Yes.
Assam, Mizoram on the northeastern
No.
side. And on the other side, they have West Bengal, as you know, broadly speaking. Now, you will be surprised that if you see the map of India, the Tripuras almost protrudes into Bangladesh. So, and then there is ethnic uh, closeness is also there because the stock of the people are the same, except that the religion is different. Now, as you know, East Pakistan was always inimical to India. They were unfriendly towards India. They wanted to create trouble in India. In fact, when East Pakistan was being carved out, the then Pakistani they wanted the whole of Northeast to be a part of East Pakistan. And later, even Sheikh Mujibur Rahman from Bangladesh, who was then the leader of Pakistan, he also always wanted the entire Assam, the entire Northeast to be a part of Bangladesh. So they were inimical towards India. And there's such a long border. Tripura alone has about 1,000 kilometers. And overall, it's more than 3,000 kilometers of border with India. So they would want to foment trouble and give shelter to people who want to create trouble in Northeast India, the Indians. So it's a very, very important role which Bangladesh played. In fact, for all the insurgent groups operating, even right up to Manipur and all, they were all operating through the Bangladesh border, which adjoins Tripura.
Yes.
So that is what they were using. The other country where we had problems and we continue to have problems, like in Bangladesh, though situation on Bangladesh front is a little better with our understanding with the government. Myanmar is the other country where many groups have their bases there. And Myanmar government, one, it's weak, especially in the border areas. Two, it's very close to China. Three, for whatever reasons, we didn't have very good relations with them. We are trying to improve, but we haven't done much. And you can also add China if you so wish on this, because ultimately we have a border with China also on the other side with Arunachal Pradesh.
Definitely.
So all the 3 countries, broadly, if you put it this way, have been having a hostile attitude towards India. But today I would say that it will be 1.5 countries if you ask me, because Bangladesh, we are better off, Myanmar half better off, China, of course, fully hostile.
Yes.
So they give shelter, they give support, They give all kinds of help, moral, diplomatic,
They give
all that
arms
kind.
and like
Naturally, all kinds of help it comes in that. Yeah.
yes, sir. So
But today it is much less because Pakistan was operating there, and even the ISI was operating through the intelligence agencies of East Pakistan and Bangladesh. They were, for insurgents were getting more help. Not today as much. Today things are much quieter. Yeah.
so sir, as you already stated that things are much better and the problem has decreased to half of it. But what are the major challenges and issues that we still face? Like we are still facing.
Well, I will tell you. Let me first briefly tell you the situation in the four states in order of their seriousness.
Yes, sir.
See, Manipur has three types of groups operating. Manipur, you know, is a valley in between. There's a valley, Imphal Valley, and then there are hills. In fact, entire northeast, they're mostly the hilly area.
Yes.
In the valley, there are Maiti groups, which are Hindus. So they are Maiti groups. And then a little extension of the plain land, there are Kuki groups. And then there are Naga groups. There are three groups operating from Manipur.
Yes, sir.
In among the Maithis, there are six major groups there, and they are called UNLF, RPF, KYK, KCP. They're all local names, you know, Pre-Pak and all that. Now, mostly they commit a bit of violence in the valley, but actually, honestly, more of them, they are criminal gangs. They extort money from the people, from the shopkeepers, from the government officials, and with some connivance with the government officials and ministers sometimes in the past also. When I was there, I was DGP Manipur also,
Yes.
not only in Tripura, but there also. And so they would take a part contracts of government schemes, this, that, and all. So this is what Mathi groups are doing. Cookie groups now, large number, 25 groups, and many of them today are having a suspension of operations agreement with the government of India.
Okay.
Still, some of them, they indulge again extortion and money. Same criminal gangs, basically. Ideology is only in name. And in the Naga areas of Manipur, the many Naga areas, where NSCN operates, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, and they also, as you know, have many groups. The two main groups, NSCN IM, Isak Moiva, and NSCN K, Kaplang. And now NSCN IM had agreement with the government of India, ceasefire agreement. And Kaplang had agreement, walked out again, it has joined back. That is the latest information that it's coming. Now, this is the Manipur situation, but overall situation is much better than what is used to be earlier on. Second would be the Nagaland, where these NSCN groups, because border is overlapping, so both these groups operate there. And again, NSCN IM, on the face of it, is not violating ceasefire, but actually they are collecting taxes from people. Kind of, they collect money, and a Kaplang group also does that. And Kaplang group has now two further factions now. What is called the YA faction, the other is called the Nikki faction. But they're active and effective. The government of Nagaland, especially the governor there, who was interlocutor earlier, Mr. Ravi, has been complaining and saying that action should be taken against these groups for collecting taxes and for violating the ceasefire agreements. Arunachal comes at serial number 3. There actually NSCN only 3-4 groups are operating, different groups. This is Kaplang group, IM group, and there's one NSCN R group also. This is a new group that has come up. They are active in violence. And normally they operate at the tri-junction of the three states of Assam, Nagaland, and Arunachal.
Okay.
And mainly again, they operate in 3 districts. These districts are Tirap, Changlong, and Longding districts.
Yes, sir.
So there they indulge in violence. The advantage of operating at the tri-junction of borders, Preeti, always is you can commit a crime in one state and rush to the other state.
Rush to the other state.
That legally, you know, you get out of their jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
Last is that Assam. Assam things are much better. Ulfa is no longer that strong.
Yes, sir.
And whatever it has, there are two groups. One is a pro-talks group. The other is a group which is against, of course, the government and wanted something. This is called independent group. Now, there's another one serious group is KLO, Kamtapur Liberation Organization. They operate mostly from their bases in Myanmar.
Myanmar.
And there are two other groups. One is Karvi Tribes Group. It's called PDCK. And the other one is DNLA. This is Dimasa tribe. They are the ones which are operating.
Okay, sir.
So all these again are active in the Upper Assam area mostly, and the TAL three districts which I mentioned there also. And there are other districts in Upper Assam. Actually, there are 10 districts in Upper Assam, and they are like Dibrugarh, Golaghat, Lakhimpur, etc. They are operating there. So this is briefly the situation of the insurgency in the Northeast. Reasons were also that there was not much development taking place.
Yes, sir.
Whatever money was going in, it was going in for corruption
Yes.
and these criminal gangs taking away all the money. There was no accountability,
Yes, sir.
and there was no effective check from the Myanmar and Bangladesh. We were unable to do it. But of late, the government then decided having look east policy during Manmohan Singh's government. Later on, things are today we have much better situation there on the northeast on the development front, and also along with our neighboring countries. Even with Myanmar, we are having good relations. Though not as good as one would wish to have, but maybe in future we will have that.
Yes, sir.
So these are the reasons, and people feel alienated. They
Yes.
feel away from the mainland. People go from here, from Delhi, they'll go, the ministers, the officials, they'll promise everything, they'll come back and do nothing.
So because of geographical reasons and because it is so secluded in geography, the development has not taken place as it would have been.
So, Ms. Preeti, there's another reason also. See, politically, they're not strong. All these states will have one or two MPs, except Assam.
Yes, sir.
So, in a Lok Sabha house of 542 members, if you have just one or two MPs from Lok Sabha MPs from that state, I mean, you have no bargaining strength at all.
Yes, sir.
And then they are far away from mainland. Government doesn't have many resources also, and there's so much of poverty otherwise in the mainland also. So it's also a question of trying to have your cut in a cake which is very limited as it is.
Yes, sir. And even if
And media also in the mainland pays no attention to them. Most of the people in mainland don't know much about Northeast. And you may have heard of complaints where people from Northeast in big cities like Delhi, Bombay, they are discriminated against. They are called Chinese and all.
yes, sir.
All those issues are also there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I've been there, so I've seen all that. So, sir, when we are talking about geography, so what is the role of Siliguri corridor in exacerbating the insurgency?
So it's a very important point. Siliguri, this what the area is also called the chicken snack. If you see, it's a
Yes,
very
sir.
small portion. Now, in that, China is trying to interfere because, I mean, it's common sense. If they're able to cut off the small portion, the entire northeast gets cut off. Now, earlier we had some groups which were also going to Bhutan. Also, they were operating some Assam groups also. Of course, we have good relations with Bhutan. That is very much there. But Chicken's corridor is very, very important, crucial little geographical area.
Yes, sir.
Width is not really much. So I think that is an area where we have to be very careful. And I'm sure government of India and the forces are keeping a watch on it. But China also has eyes on it. So we have to continue to be vigilant on that front.
So, sir, what we have been doing to address the problem and how successful we are in our endeavor about this chicken.
We are successful in the sense that so far nothing has happened. Chicken neck is continuing. It's in our control. We have our transportation through that. We have our railway lines through that. And to check that, What can we do? Trying to keep the people happy there, trying to keep China at bay, and we have succeeded so far, and I'm sure we will succeed.
Okay, sir. So, sir, please summarize for us, like, what are some of the reasons behind the current decline in insurgency, and what are the steps that our government has taken to do that?
The reasons for decline in insurgency are: one, the good action taken by the police forces of those states and army and other central paramilitary forces who are operating there.
Yes, sir.
Second, lot of development has taken place. Employment opportunities are increasing, new industries are going.
Mm-hmm.
Third, our relations now with the neighboring countries, Bangladesh especially, have improved quite a lot.
Okay.
And that was a very big chunk of problem for us. And with Myanmar also, situation is improving. Some time back, the Indian Army had operations against the insurgents in the Myanmar territory on the borders with Manipur, with the approval and support of the Myanmar government. So that is the
Yes.
third reason.
Okay.
And fourth is sensitivity. And fifth, I would say that now we are improving our relations with the countries on this side also, like countries like Thailand, Southeast Asia and all. We are going and we are trying to have connectivity through rail and road and air links and all. So it will open up more economic opportunities also.
Yes.
So all that are the reasons, and I'm sure situation will go on improving in the near future also.
Yes, sir. We all hope so. We all hope for that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And we hope to speak to you furthermore on such topics. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
For more such discussions, like, share, and subscribe our channel, and also hit the bell button for our upcoming videos.